Hey, I'm Brian O'Connell, and this week on Backyard Bartender, we're going to take you into one of the new restaurants in St. John's and one of the new bars, Terre Restaurant, with two friends of ours who were on last year's episode of Backyard Bartender. Alexi and Mike are going to join us, and we're going to visit them at their bar. And this time around, we're going to do a deep dive into classic martinis. We're also going to talk to Chef here at Terre Restaurant about the menu and the various items that they use and source locally. It's a great show. Stick around. Backyard Bartender here at Terre Restaurant at the Alt Hotel in St. John's. Why don't you join me inside? Welcome back to Backyard Bartender. This year we're on the road. These two guys were at my bar last year. They invited me back here to their bar at Terre this year. Alexi and Mike are here, and we're going to talk martinis today. And we're going to move this along because we have, what, 4 martinis we're going to make today?
We're going to make a few. I mean, 3.5 martinis. Sure, you know, it's early in the morning, so you might say there's only one martini, but we're going to go through a little bit of the history. I'm going to start you off with what's called the Martinez, which appears about in 1880 in print anyway.
Yep.
Kind of as a relative of the Manhattan. So we know the Manhattan as a vermouth and whiskey drink. So this is a vermouth and gin drink. Typically, we'd use Genever or Old Tom gin, which are sweeter styles of gin. Today I'm going to use the Newfoundland Distilling Company Seaweed Gin, which is kind of similar in style because it's a little lower on the juniper, which is that sort of spruce tree flavor that might be used.
You see a lot of craft gins coming out. People are coming up with various gins, local gins.
It's a nice way to start a distillery because it's probably the quickest spirit to make other than vodka because you're essentially taking vodka and flavoring it.
I remember this from last time. You stir briskly to what?
And essentially dilute and chill the cocktail. You're going to bring it down to a nice temperature, water it down a little bit to kind of not have as much heat from the alcohol. This particular cocktail is maraschino liqueur, which is a cherry, like full cherry, so the pit's included, with orange bitters, sweet vermouth, and gin. So it's almost like a sweet martini. You hear the word dry martini quite a bit.
Well, yeah, so just talk to me about that for a minute. The difference in, when you go in and order a martini, there's a number of questions that you usually get.
I mean, nowadays, most martinis, you're going to get what's considered a dry martini because it's using dry vermouth. Okay. Vermouth being a wine-based aperitif, basically. It's wine that's been fortified with herbs, roots, and spirit. And there's typically an Italian style, which is sweet, and a French style, which is dry. We don't have a knife, do we?
That was my next question. How many vermouths are out there?
So now you have about 4 or 5 major types with Bianco vermouth, white vermouth, also called that.
And do you have a preference?
I like them all for different reasons. I particularly love the French extra dry styles in my martinis, but this is kind of going older than that, a little bit sweeter.
And is that what makes an extra dry martini a dry martini or an extra dry
So dry martini would be using dry vermouth. If somebody asks for something extra dry, typically it's because they don't want any vermouth in their cocktail or just a small amount.
So if you're not having vermouth in your cocktail, you're just having straight gin.
Pretty much chilled gin, yeah.
We're going to get there.
Yeah. Which I think comes from, a tradition of a lot of bars either not keeping their vermouth in the fridge, so it goes bad. It is wine at the end of the day, so it does go bad.
How long will a bottle of vermouth last? Any idea? Roughly?
Really should be consumed in about 3 weeks, in my opinion, as long as you're keeping it chilled.
Okay.
If you're keeping it out of the fridge and it's open, you're going to get maybe 4 days out of it.
Now, I was reading about the martini and its origins, and you say most likely New York. Some people say California. Some people say Europe. It has a long history.
Yeah, it was around for a while before it ever got put in print. And even in print, the first, so like Jerry Thomas' Bartender's Guide, what they call the Martinez cocktail is not what I just made for you. It's something in line with it, but not quite the same.
Okay, so this is, people talk about shaken, not stirred, or whatever. What's the difference there?
Well, typically you would want to stir a cocktail that uses no citrus juices or anything that needs to be emulsified. So typically if somebody wants a martini shaken, it's because they want very cold and very watery, very bright, easy to drink, and really refreshing. Whereas if you want to have more of the subtlety of the flavors, you're going to want to stir it down, control that water and that chill a little bit more.
And let's just talk about the quality of gin, because you say gin is a relatively easy beverage to make.
Yeah,
to distill, I guess.
It is, well, in the sense that if you're essentially flavoring a neutral spirit like vodka with juniper primarily, and then oftentimes other things. For instance, this one's flavored with seaweed and Newfoundland savory as well. You're going to run into like coriander seed, orange peel, black pepper, cucumber in some gins. So you're essentially just flavoring your vodka with those components.
Even a Vienna sausage.
Yeah,
No.
Vienna. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, no,
a Vienna
no, no.
martini.
No.
Vienna.
A Vienna, really? So
I've seen it all. I've seen it all, Brian. I've seen it all.
I was going to say, what's the most unusual martini? But I didn't have to ask.
That one.
I'm just curious, what would go in
Steals
that?
the cake. Vienna sausage.
Yeah.
For starters, but you're basically substituting your saltiness. So anything that would cater to the palate of umami. So instead of using olive brine, you're using the juice rendered from a tin of Vienna sausages. Who would have thought?
I've never heard of that one before. The other thing is I'm seeing a lot of gins now. I know in Nova Scotia there's a rhubarb gin, there's a blueberry gin. People are infusing gins with all manner of fruit and local fruit too.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the only legal definition that's kind of found across the world is that it has to contain some level of juniper berries.
Okay.
It has to, in London dry gins, you have to have it be the primary flavor that's discernible in the product. But in some, like some new American style gins, you're looking at something that has very little juniper just to keep it called that.
So again, in this drink right now.
So we have the Newfoundland Distilling Company seaweed gin, which is seaweed, savory, and juniper. We've got maraschino liqueur, which is done from whole cherries, including the pits, so it kind of has a nutty flavor.
Okay.
Sweet vermouth from Norley Prat, and orange bitters, stirred down with an orange peel on the very top.
So I guess I should try this.
I suppose you should, please.
All right, well, cheers.
This one I think is the most in line with your preferences,
All right.
as far as I've
And of
gotten
course,
to know them.
the orange on top. Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
It's very nice. It's
not quite
very-
as bright and boozy
Yeah,
as you might think.
it's very mild, very nice taste, you know. And when could you have some? Don't say any time. Would this be a nice before dinner drink or after dinner
I'd
drink?
probably do that one after dinner myself.
All right.
But
So, it's something heavy hitting. It depends on when you want to feel it. You know.
All right. This is the Martinez. We're going to take a moment and speak with chef here at Terre Restaurant, Matthew Swift, and then we'll be right back with another 2 classic martinis on Backyard Bartender. Matthew Swift is the chef here at Terre Restaurant at Alt in St. John's. And first of all, does every Alt hotel have a restaurant?
Most of them do. They're all a little bit unique depending on the city and what they're working with. This is the only one with this restaurant, I guess.
And you're going to hear some noise behind us. This is a working restaurant, a very busy restaurant as you prepare for the day ahead. What makes this restaurant unique from other restaurants at all hotels?
Basically just that it is just that. It's its own thing. It's sort of my plan as much as that exists, and working with what's here and where we are.
Well, let's talk about that because having enjoyed many a meal here, you have a very unique approach to the menu here and you source a lot of local product. How does a chef begin to put that together?
I think that's been the same for me anywhere. It's a little bit reactionary. It's kind of, you work with what you have, and with here, there's a different season and a different dynamic you're working with, but it is kind of that same thing of, you start to build relationships and find what you have to work with and who you have to work with, and the structure of the menu sort of happens around that, which I think is how a lot of people work, but the goal is really to have, I guess, kind of a neighborhood restaurant, even if we're in a hotel where, you can come and have a small meal or a large meal and it's comfortable.
And you feature some unique Newfoundland items on your menu. What's the most favorite thing to cook?
Depends really on the season, I think. I mean, lobster season comes up in the spring and we're very excited when that happens, and by the time it's over, we never want to see lobster again. And that's kind of the up and down of a seasonal menu, is that, when things come into season, we haven't seen them for a year, it's very exciting. We have new ideas, we have things to do, and then we focus so heavily on it that by the end of it, it's nice to move on. So it keeps things fresh, it keeps things interesting, and it keeps it enjoyable to be cooking with what's here, I guess.
You're doing something right because you were just recognized by En Route magazine.
Yeah, that was that was a nice surprise.
So tell us about that award.
I mean, I don't know that much about it really. It's the Air Canada publication. They kind of do every year they do a best new restaurants. I believe they skipped it the previous year with COVID, and with, you know, it's kind of hard to talk about restaurants when none of us were open. So this year they did it as categories, and they gave us best new restaurants and best hotel restaurant, which I thought was really nice. I honestly haven't traveled that much in the last bit, so I'm like, okay, I'll take it. Beautiful.
Congratulations on that. It's a wonderful award to receive. If you have not dined at Terre, this is Matthew Swift. He's the chef here, and you'll be enjoying his food when you do join us at Terre. Now we're going to head back to the bar because we're going to talk about martinis today. Hey, welcome back to Backyard Bartender. I'm Brian O'Connell with Mike and Alexi here at Terre. We're on the road this season, and we're talking martinis, classic martinis. We had the Martinez, and now we're going to move to 2 martinis in this one segment. So you're each going to make a martini.
I suppose so, yeah. They might be about the same. How do you like your martini, Brian? Do you know?
Well, you know, that's a good question because I think I like it dry, but then I think I like it sweet. There used to be a vermouth that was a sweet vermouth that you could get here, which I particularly enjoyed. And then that went away, so I started a little drier. So, I mean, what's the difference in taste? How do you make a really dry martini?
I think this guy is probably your guy.
Yeah, so as we were discussing earlier, dry vermouth is a style of vermouth, but specifically when you're asking for a really dry martini, or dare we say a bone dry martini, what you want is to take away all of the flavoring agents for your martini, and you're just based with the raw spirit. So typically, if I were to make a dry martini, I would choose like a premium spirit. So we're rolling with Tanqueray 10. It's distilled with multiple different agents that all base together. But all that I'm going to do is, instead of adding vermouth or bitters, I'm just going to stir this down on ice. Now,
so that's just straight.
Like the worst case scenario that I'm going to do here is rinse out my glass just with a little bit of that vermouth.
Okay.
Just to season the glass.
Okay.
That's all. And then stir that down on ice. And Alexi, what are you doing?
So I'm going to stir this for a lot longer than you are, which is why I got a head start.
Okay, so what is this you're making?
So some people call this a fitty-fitty, which is what a lot of people have started calling it that.
Or a 50-50.
Or a 50-50, yeah, which is basically half vermouth and half gin. This is the sort of thing, you have to use a gin that you like and you have to use the vermouth that you love. And it's basically the opposite. It's a very, very, what I would call a very, very wet martini.
Okay. So okay. So you're going to stir that for how long?
Basically, till it stops diluting. Okay. Until I can see that it's no longer adding any more water. We're pretty much there, and it feels very cold. Now this is a much, again, wetter, but in my opinion, easier to drink. But also, sometimes you can have a few more because there's slightly less alcohol.
What hour of the day is it?
What hour of the day is it? Is right.
All right, so this is a kind of a wet martini, and it's called a 50-50 or a fitty-fitty, and it's made with what?
So equal parts gin and dry vermouth. I used extra dry today because, I mean, again, even though it's extra dry vermouth, you're still getting what's called a wet martini because there's more of it. This to me is a very fresh, zesty cocktail, so I'm using a lemon twist instead of an olive or onion. You could use an onion, and that's called a Gibson martini.
One of my favorites.
A Gibson, okay, right. Now, is that like a little pickled jar onion?
Well, yeah, so you know you'd have that pickled cheese wiener at Christmas, and then every one of them had that little
I'm afraid
onion bulb.
Because you talked about the martini with the Vienna sausages. Are you using the juice out of that?
Well, not today. Especially with the bone dry martini, like we said, just spirit. I would just classify that as a bar olive. Like I have done Kalamata martinis before, where you're just using the juice from a Kalamata olive. But anything typically
like a stuffed olive. You know, you want to use. So that's pimento stuffed. I've seen blue cheese stuffed. I have almond stuffed.
Almond stuffed,
like.
garlic as well.
Yeah.
You know.
But wouldn't that interfere with the taste of the martini?
Yeah, exactly. A little bit.
You know?
Or a complement, depending on how you like your martini.
And what exactly is in this one, Mike?
So that is just Tanqueray 10, stirred down. So we chill and we dilute. What we want to is express all of the flavors of that raw distillate, and then just an olive, something little savory at the end.
The difference between Tanqueray and Tanqueray 10?
It's how many ingredients are used. I'm pretty
It's
sure
heavier on the juniper and lime,
Yeah.
is my understanding. There's a little bit more alcohol to it as well. I think it's 47-ish. A little higher, and more expensive to produce. To me, much cleaner taste, but both excellent gins.
What I've learned here is there's a whole school of gin that you need to go to become a bartender.
You know what my dog's name is? Do you?
No.
No, my dog's name is Juniper.
Appropriately enough.
But I mean, a lot of it is if you're using premium spirits, if you're using quality products,
Yeah.
you're going to end up with a quality finish.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what cocktail you're making, as long as you use something that you like, something that's good for the house.
All right, and you're seeing a lot of local gins being produced, not only here but in Nova Scotia. And what do you think about that? I mean, local, because you guys specialize in a lot of local products.
As much as we can. I mean, it's you can talk about terroir as much as you like in this industry, right? And oftentimes you're talking about wine or you're talking about food, but it can go with spirits as well. If you're essentially using what's surrounding you to produce, sorry for lack of a better term, to distill it into something.
Yeah.
You're essentially kind of expressing attitudes and familiarity of your environment into something that you drink and celebrate with.
Is this an exciting time to be a bartender in Newfoundland and Labrador?
It's the only time I've ever been a bartender, so I'm not sure.
Right now it is. Right now. I mean, for the product that's available to you and the new products that you're seeing.
Especially here in Newfoundland, because what we're seeing and noticing is that a lot of resources that you can get in Newfoundland, whether that be through spirits or what we're using, it is very limited. We're on a very small island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So whatever we get here, use to the best of your ability.
And you're seeing a lot of a number of local distilleries open up now.
Yeah, more and more. I mean, there's really only right now one major, but you've seen a few breweries actually converted some of their facilities over the lockdowns to produce hand sanitizer, which but that means they have to get the resources to create high alcohol products, and they've since now Dildo Brewing's doing a vodka. And then there's Wooden Walls is opening up downtown,
Which is just here on
soon.
Harbor Drive, yeah.
And then the Newfoundland Distilling Company kind of paved the way for a lot of these things, in my opinion, by essentially saying we can do it, let's do it, and they have the product.
And it's good for the industry, I guess.
Absolutely. Anytime you can get local, it's a better resource.
Okay, so the 50-50, which I'll, if you don't mind, have a quick sample. And again, this is gin and vermouth, right?
Gin, vermouth, little bit of bitters. I use some of the Newfoundland cloudberry bitters in that as well. It's one of my little aces that I...
Wow. That's alive.
Compared to the last one.
Well,
Compared to the last one, yeah, very much so.
Oh, well, it only gets better.
And this is, for want of a better word, pure gin.
Watered down, chilled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the subtlety of that olive sitting in there for a few minutes as well is going to come through. That's where you're...
Yeah, you can, yeah. So
you don't necessarily need to put a bunch of olive juice in it or
and if you come to Terre restaurant, right now on our menu we have a martini style cocktail that uses dehydrated lime and Newfoundland sea salt, and it'll take you through a journey as you drink that.
It's incredible.
Salt dissolves and lime flavors it slowly.
The 50-50 and the
Bone dry
martini. Those are two of the martinis we made this segment, but coming up, we have one more martini that we're going to make for you, and we'll be providing the recipes for you as we go along. This is Backyard Bartender. We're on the road this season. We're at Terre Restaurant in St. John's at the Alt Hotel. Alexia and Mike are with me, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Backyard Bartender at Terre at the Alt Hotel in St. John's. I'm Brian O'Connell. This year we're on the road. Last year these guys were at my bar. This year I'm at their bar. And what an impressive place this is with all of the instruments that you have to make so many wonderful cocktails. Now, we're talking about martinis today, and we've done a deep dive into some classic martinis. I particularly like the story you told about the U.S. president who set hold of a vermouth bottle up to the moonlight and let it shine on the glass.
When it shines through the bottle, that's enough vermouth.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this time, we're going to go to a drink that has gained a lot of popularity nationally and locally.
Now, it's funny that we were talking about different styles of martinis and how different people like to appreciate them different ways. This what we're pouring here is called an espresso martini. If you want to grab some espresso, even though it's called a martini, it's mainly what it's trying to say is an espresso-based cocktail. So.
And this is ground beans into an espresso cup?
Yeah, so I got Alexi over here just pulling a shot of espresso, and what we're going to do is add a little bit of sweetener, a little bit of coffee liqueur.
Okay.
So some people would call this a vodka espresso if they're purists, or
And
apparently
this-
that's what the creator wanted it to be called, but
Yeah.
Martini kind of took over, and then
And this cocktail came from the 80s, was it Dick?
Dick Bradsell.
Yes.
So almost exactly 100 years after the Martinez, which I made for you earlier,
Okay.
this kind of starts coming along.
Okay, so it is coffee. And what else are you putting in it?
So we're going to fortify. We're going to beef it up with Newfoundland Distilleries vodka.
Okay, and how much vodka are you using?
I prefer to use 2 ounces myself,
I kind of thought you'd say that.
but once again, all that you're trying to do is come up with something proportionate that is based around your palate. It's not about what we want; it's about what the guest wants.
Okay, so you're making this here at Terre, and this must happen. I figure I'm in a restaurant and I see a meal go by, and I wonder, what is that? That looks really, I'm sorry, I'm in your way. What is that? That looks really interesting, you know, and next thing you're flagging down the waiter saying, hey, what was that just went by? Does that happen with cocktails?
Oh my God!
He
yes.
makes it happen.
The contagious cocktail. It happens all the time.
contagious cocktail?
Yeah, there's very specific ones, and as soon as you see something happening, when somebody orders one drink, you end up making 20 of them. Absolutely.
Spro.
Spro bro, my team.
Spros for the bros.
Now, we were talking about something else before we started, and that was flair bartending. And you talk about your shake there and how you do that. I didn't realize there was something known as flair bartending.
Yeah, and I mean, I try to exhilarate on this a lot of times when we're talking about garnishing.
Yeah.
Garnishes for a cocktail definitely should express your nasal cavity, but also your eyes. Because as you drink, you do it with all your sensory receptors.
Yeah.
So you do it with visuals as well. When you see a chef like Matt Swift and he's in the kitchen and you watch his professionalism and his expertise and you hear the sizzle of the meat on the grill, or you watch him finely cut everything with precision, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So when you see somebody tossing around tins, it catches your eye, and then all of a sudden, you want that cocktail.
Okay, so let's go to the movie Cocktail, which was Tom Cruise back in the
1988?
88.
Yeah,
so-
You're the Dragon is when I was born.
Okay, all right. So obviously you've seen that movie.
A couple of times, might own it.
Yeah. You might own it.
Might own it.
Is that realistic?
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked across Canada, like outside of the country, and there are bars definitely like that.
How difficult is it to do some of those tricks with a
I would treat it like a musician treats his instruments.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot of practice. Let's
All right, give me a quick lesson here.
yeah, that teeter-totter twirl we were talking
What
about.
are we doing?
Teeter-totter,
Teeter-totter? Oh, wait.
teeter-totter twirl.
Teeter-totter? Yeah, okay, I'll leave that to you.
Well, you know what? Maybe you just need a quick espresso martini in the meantime.
All right. What type of coffee? Do the beans make a difference?
I think they do. I mean, it's about 1/3 of the components in the drink. So here we use 7th wave coffee roasters, but whatever coffee you prefer, preferably something that's quite oily. You see how you have like a nice kind of crema on top there, that foam? That's going to come from basically all the oils in the coffee. So that's why you need really fresh espresso. I've seen people do, and I've done it myself, cold brew coffee. So you infuse coffee in cold water for about 24 hours, and then use that instead if you don't have an espresso machine. It's a good way to extract a lot of flavor out of your coffee. And then you add a coffee liqueur. We use Tia Maria, but I've seen people use Kahlua. Mr. Black is one from Australia that's supposed to be quite nice. And then vodka. But then you can play around with that. You can bourbon instead of the vodka is fantastic.
Bourbon as well, really? And tequila? Really?
Yeah.
Well,
a
we've
little
never thought of-
agave, vanilla, or cinnamons. You know, this is a base. You could take that and express that however you want.
So this is, I know, a difficult question, but again, I think about cocktails and when do you have them? What time of day do you have them? You know,
This could be a substitute for dessert.
Yeah.
Or this could be a substitute for breakfast.
So it's sort of thing, you know, it's like, I've used the expression like a midnight special,
Yeah.
where it's like you're either starting with it or finishing with it.
Yeah, exactly.
good point. So again, it is Tia Maria, it's Newfoundland Distillery vodka, and
Espresso.
Espresso.
A little bit of sugar, just a
little
little bit of
bit
simple
of sugar?
syrup,
Okay.
just to round it out. But please.
you really smell that coffee. So this could be a real eye opener, I think, as well.
Well,
it will be.
I'm just-
We're not closer.
But better than a vodka Red Bull, you know, in my opinion anyway.
Yeah.
Time and place for everything. But.
I don't taste the alcohol at all.
The bitterness from the coffee will definitely conquer that palate, but once again, what you're really focusing on, and what separates a really good espresso martini versus, or a vodka espresso versus the others, is use fresh ingredients. Pull that coffee right away. Make sure that gets to your guest's hand as fast as possible.
So the coffee's got to be fresh out of the machine.
But there's a lot of things in common with alcohol in terms of flavor with a lot of things in coffee as well, right? You're kind of hitting all sorts of different parts of your palate and they tend to mix together really quickly.
You wouldn't want a flavored alcohol at all.
You can. I mean,
Really?
Yeah, I've seen it. Absolutely. It's, I mean, like I said, I love bourbon.
In New Zealand, vanilla vodka is one of the leading agents in their espresso martini.
Incredible, incredible. Well, if you visit Terre Restaurant here in St. John's at the Alt Hotel, one of the many drinks that you can enjoy, this is a coffee espresso martini, and it's delicious, along with all the other ones that you guys have made today. Alexi and Mike, you'll find these guys working the bar here at Terre, and we hope you can join them at some point and enjoy one of these great cocktails. We have lots more to come in future episodes. We're going to go underground soon with another bar in the local area, and we'll tell you more about that next time here on Backyard Bartender. And before we go, a bartender...
Whoa. We can't leave yet. Before we leave.
Oh, the bartender handshake, right? Yeah, okay. Oh, jeez.
Now, next time you have to do one of these at 11 in the morning, you know what I'll tell you?
Grab a beer.
All right, so we're going to end with this.
Swing by for a quick beer and a shot.
All right, well, cheers, everybody, and we'll see you next time on Backyard Bartender. Bottoms up. All right.